Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we are going to be exploring something pretty amazing, the connection between emotions and our health.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about like good vibes and positive thinking.
Yeah.
We're really going to get into the nitty-gritty of how our emotions physically impact our bodies.
Right.
And to guide us through this fascinating world, we've got some incredible insights from neuroscience textbooks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's really wild. Some of the stuff I've been reading about, like, did you know that there's research that suggests that a person's emotional style, like whether they're generally optimistic or pessimistic, can actually affect how well their body responds to a vaccine? Like, that's crazy to me.
That's a really great point, and it highlights something so important about how our mental and physical states, they're not separate. They're deeply, deeply intertwined.
Right.
And our bodies are, they're always striving for this balance, this internal balance. And, in the scientific world, we call that homeostasis.
Homeostasis.
Yeah. You can think of it like your body has this inner thermostat that's constantly working, making these tiny adjustments to keep everything running smoothly.
I like that, the thermostat analogy.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So then where do emotions come into play with this thermostat?
Well, emotions, especially when we think about things that are stressful, that's where the thermostat can get thrown off.
Okay.
And so when we think about stressors, they really can disrupt that balance and trigger all these reactions in your body.
Right.
And a lot of this is orchestrated by the nervous system.
Got
So
it.
you've got the command center of your body, right?
Right.
And it has these two branches. We call them the sympathetic and the parasympathetic.
Okay.
And these two branches, they're constantly working. They're kind of like playing tug of war almost, to keep things in check.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So you've probably heard of the fight or flight response.
Right.
That's your sympathetic nervous system kicking in.
Yeah, so like if I'm driving and someone slams on their brakes in front of me and I have to slam on my brakes, that's my sympathetic nervous system.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like your body floods with adrenaline. You're ready to react. Your heart's racing, your focus narrows, you're ready to take action.
Right.
But then you also have the parasympathetic nervous system
Okay.
that steps in after to kind of calm everything down, bring you back to that baseline.
So it's like rest and digest.
Exactly. So you've got these two systems that are working together.
Right. So I'm guessing it's not really good to have that fight or flight response on high alert all the time.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when we have chronic stress.
Got it.
It's like your sympathetic nervous system is stuck in overdrive, right?
Okay.
Imagine you're driving a car and you're constantly running the engine at top speed.
Right.
Eventually, something's going to give.
It's going to break down. Yeah, okay. So I get that part, but then how does like our emotional brain, how does that really tie into all of this?
Right.
I mean, I know we always hear like stress is bad, but what's actually happening in there?
So there's this, have you ever heard of the amygdala?
The amygdala.
Yeah, it's this little almond-shaped structure in your brain.
Okay.
And it's basically like the alarm bell
Okay.
for your emotions,
Okay.
especially fear and anxiety.
Interesting.
And it's really, really tightly connected to that stress response.
So you're saying, like, before I even realize what's happening, my amygdala is already freaking out.
That's pretty much how it works.
Wow.
The sensory information, it actually gets routed to the amygdala really fast,
Okay.
even before it reaches like the thinking part of your brain, the cortex.
IA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what lets you, do things like if you touch a hot stove, you pull your hand back super fast.
Oh, right.
You don't even think about it.
It's
It's
like
instinct. It's like, bam, get me away from this.
Wow. So it's like we're hardwired to react emotionally first and then think later.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
But thankfully, it's not like we're totally ruled by our emotions. We have this other part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, that's like the executive center of your brain.
Oh, right.
That really helps us regulate those emotional responses
Okay.
and make better choices, even when we're under stress.
Well, it's like a constant battle between my emotional impulses and my
Yeah.
rational brain.
It really is, yeah. It's this constant tug of war. But here's the problem. Chronic stress. When you're under stress for long periods of time, it actually can weaken that prefrontal cortex.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's almost like stress makes it harder to deal with stress.
You got it.
Oh, no, that's not good.
It's like this vicious cycle.
Right.
And that's how stress can kind of spiral out of control.
Okay. And all of this all ties back to the physical impact of our emotions that we were talking about.
Absolutely, it all connects.
Okay.
So let's think about the heart, right?
Right.
A really fascinating study actually looked at cardiac deaths
Jerry.
on the day of the 1994 Northridge earthquake in California.
Okay.
And guess what they found?
I don't know.
There was a significant spike in deaths on that day.
Wait, seriously? Just from the stress of the earthquake?
That's right.
That's wild.
It's a really dramatic example of just how powerful acute stress can be on the heart.
Wow.
But it's not just those sudden big events, right? The
Yeah.
everyday, grind of chronic stress, that takes its toll too.
Yeah.
It increases your risk for heart disease over time.
So stress can literally, break our heart.
It's a really powerful connection.
Wow.
One that we really shouldn't underestimate.
Okay, so we've got to manage our stress.
Absolutely.
But there's more, right?
There is. We've got to think about our immune system as well.
Oh, right. But I thought, our immune system was all about, fighting off those, germs and viruses.
Right.
What does stress have to do with that?
Well, here's how it works. When you're stressed, your body releases these hormones.
Okay.
And one of the big ones is cortisol.
Cortisol.
Yeah. And while cortisol can be helpful in the short term, when you need to cope with something, having it coursing through your system all the time, that actually suppresses your immune function.
Wait, so being stressed can actually make us more likely to get sick?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
It's like your immune system gets disarmed.
Oh, no.
So you're more susceptible to those infections
Okay.
and those illnesses.
Right.
And it's not just about catching colds.
Yeah.
This chronic stress, it can lead to chronic inflammation.
Okay.
And that's a whole other problem.
Yeah.
It's linked to so many different health problems, from heart disease to even cancer.
So it really is stress is like this domino effect, right?
Yeah.
Setting off all these negative consequences.
That's a great way to think about it. It's this chain reaction, and it doesn't stop there.
Oh, no. What else?
Stress can actually damage your brain.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah?
I thought, our brains are supposed to be, they're resilient.
They are. They are incredibly complex and amazing organs.
Right, right.
But there is research that shows that stress can really have a negative impact.
Okay.
So studies have found that people who have experienced really extreme stress,
Okay.
things like combat veterans
Right.
or victims of childhood abuse, they can actually have reduced volume in a part of their brain called the hippocampus.
And what does the hippocampus do again?
It's really important for memory.
Oh, wow.
So it's suggesting that this extreme stress could impair your ability to form memories
Right.
and to retrieve them.
Wow. So that cortisol, that's the main culprit in all of this.
That seems to be the link, yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like stress is not our friend.
It can be a real problem.
Yeah. But is there any hope?
There is. It's not all doom and gloom.
Okay, good.
The good news is that positive emotions, they actually can protect our health.
Really?
Yeah. There's research that shows that people who are more optimistic, more resilient,
Yeah.
they tend to have better physical health.
So it's not just about avoiding stress,
Yeah.
but it's also about actively cultivating positive emotion.
You got it.
Okay.
It's like having a strong defense.
Right.
Positive emotions, they help buffer us against the negative effects of stress.
I like that.
Okay.
So we've got stress kind of, wreaking havoc on one side,
Right.
and then we've got positive emotions coming in to save the day on the other.
Exactly.
But what can we actually do about all of this?
Right.
I mean, it's great to know this information,
Yeah.
but how do we manage stress?
Great question.
And how do we bring in more of those positive vibes?
There are a lot of tools that we can use,
Okay, great.
and we'll talk about those next.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear about that.
So when it comes to stress management, one of the most powerful tools we have is exercise.
Exercise.
Yeah, it's amazing what it can do.
Right.
When you exercise, your body releases these chemicals called endorphins,
Yeah.
and they have this incredible mood-boosting effect.
Right.
They reduce anxiety.
Yeah, I've totally experienced that. I always feel so much better after a good workout.
Right. It's like magic.
It is. It's like magic.
Yeah.
But what about some of these other things we hear about, like mindfulness or meditation? Do those really work?
They really can.
Okay.
Mindfulness is all about becoming more aware of your thoughts,
Right.
your emotions, without judgment.
Okay.
It's like creating space between you and the stress.
Interesting.
So you have more control over how you react.
So instead of just getting totally swept away by oh no, I'm stressed out, it allows me to kind of take the step back.
Exactly.
Okay.
And something else that's really important is social connection. Having those strong relationships,
Yeah.
a supportive network, that can make a huge difference in how we cope with stress.
It makes sense, I guess. Like, having people you can talk to and just kind of share the burden with.
Absolutely. It really lightens the load.
Yeah.
And, speaking of lightening the load, we can't forget about sleep.
Oh, sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep is so important.
It really is. It's essential.
I know when I don't get enough sleep, I am not myself.
You and everyone else.
Right.
It's not just about feeling better.
Right.
Sleep deprivation, when you're not getting enough sleep, that actually amplifies stress.
Right.
It impairs your cognitive function.
Wow.
It weakens your immune system.
Okay, so we've got to get our sleep. We've got to exercise. We've got to be mindful. And we need to have good social connections. Any other secret weapons when it comes to, like, managing stress?
Well, I think those are really great foundational practices.
Right.
And I think the most important thing is to figure out what works best for you. We're all different. We
Right.
respond to things differently.
Yeah.
So it's really about experimenting,
Okay.
finding what works for you, and creating that personalized toolkit for managing stress and boosting your well-being.
I love that idea of a personalized toolkit.
Yeah.
So much good stuff in this deep dive. I never realized just how connected our emotions and our physical health really are.
It's amazing, right?
Like, it's a loop.
Yeah.
Like, how we're feeling mentally
Yeah.
impacts us physically.
Right.
And how we're doing physically impacts how we're feeling mentally.
It's a powerful connection. And it's one that I think we're just starting to really scratch the surface of understanding.
Yeah.
But what's exciting is that we do have this power to influence it.
Right.
We can use what we're learning about these connections to support our own well-being.
I love that. I love that it's not just like, oh, well, this is how it is and we're stuck.
Yeah.
But that we can actually do something about it.
Exactly. We're not passive passengers.
Yeah.
We are active participants in our health and our happiness.
Well said.
So it's about becoming more in tune with what our bodies are telling us,
Yeah.
paying attention to those signals,
Okay.
and responding in ways that promote balance and well-being.
This has been so interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a totally new appreciation for the power of my emotions and just how important it is to take care of my mental and emotional health.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, knowledge is power.
Right?
The more we understand about how our bodies and minds work, the better choices we can make
Absolutely.
to support our health and happiness.
So we've talked a lot about how stress can really do a number on our health. And we've touched on how, positive emotions can actually be good for us. But I'm wondering, is there anything in those textbooks about how we can actually boost those good feelings? I mean, it's easy to say, be more optimistic.
Right.
But, like, how do we actually make that happen?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's something that researchers are still trying to figure out. Okay.
But, there is some really interesting evidence that shows that certain things we can do, like gratitude exercises, even just simple acts of kindness,
Okay.
can shift our emotional state and boost our overall well-being.
So, like, if I keep a gratitude journal or I do something nice for someone, that can actually, change my brain.
It sounds so simple, but yeah,
Wow.
these small acts, when we do them intentionally,
Right.
they can really make a big difference. They help us focus on what's good in our lives.
Okay.
They strengthen our connections with other people.
Right.
And they boost those feel-good hormones.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It's almost like we can create our own happiness. We
Yeah.
don't just have to wait for it to happen.
It's about taking charge
Okay.
of our emotional well-being, just like we do with our physical health.
I love that. This whole conversation has been incredible. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
And I really have a much better understanding now of the connection between my mind and my body.
It's a journey, right?
Yeah. It's not like we just arrive at a destination.
Right. It's ongoing.
It's ongoing. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for guiding me through this deep dive. It's been a real pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine. Thanks for having me.
And to all of you listening, I hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and given you something to think about. Your emotions matter, and taking care of your mental and emotional well-being is just as important as taking care of your physical health. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.